10. Okay, we're recording now, I guess. Yep, we're recording now. Okay, I'm just waiting for it to. I've just a few minutes before 7, and I've last minute rush as usual, but I've uploaded to the website here the documents I'm going to use tonight. I'm just waiting. I've just launched the PDF of the PowerPoint I made, about 14 slides or so. It's just loading now, taking a very long time, less than half. It's been at least a minute now. Actually uploaded quicker than it's loading to open. So somehow you've got to upload it, then you've got to open it, and it takes longer to open. I'll have to remember that in the future to give enough time for this. Another 2 minutes left. I've got my screen, I think, pretty nicely done. I haven't prepared as much as I probably should have in terms of using this service, but hopefully I'll wing it through, and it can be of some use to you. I don't know how many people are going to attend. If it's like usual, I probably won't get many. I can't seem to interest people in personally responsible freedom here in China or anywhere else actually on the globe at this point, but I'll persist and hopefully get a few people that I think this is where I want to catch them, is with the money, because everyone is concerned with obviously making a living, which for most people is money, especially in China, with no welfare state to back them up here, as you people will find out that will watch this recording. If there's any Chinese show up, or anyone shows up, which is only 1 minute to go, and I'm the only one here. And finally, the PowerPoint PDF is just about ready to load. Oh, it's almost there. Okay, I've got a call. There we go. Good, I got it. Now, I wonder, I'm going to try to see if how I can work this. Oh, Jesus. How do I, next? Oh, but, okay, good. Previous. Okay, good. Well, that's pretty good. Now, let me see if I can record. I've got that more desktop. Meeting in discussion mode. I'm the only one on now. Let me see what else I can do here. More additional settings. Share slides, switch to phone, invite more people, run an audience poll, play YouTube video, share slides, customize review. Oh, where's can I move this? No. Change presentation. Next, I better not fool with that because I don't want to get this screwed up. Anyway, well, I'm waiting on, maybe no one's going to show. I'll just give the presentation as it is now. You can see me. And so you can see for each resource for your source, that's me. You can see the little door over here with the frame leading to openness, Sunyata, maybe. But go on, come on through and join me. All right, that's me. And here, as you can see, I'm in my apartment in Beijing, a different one from when this was taken, but resource for your source, free each. And I always, in China, freedom, responsibility, sympathy, knowledge, these are my 4 virtues. And I link them up with my symbols of the Great Wall, of course, being here from China, last 11 years, and the Great Door, linking it to the Great Door, linking the Great Door to the Great Question. What might that be? Well, we'll talk about that a little later. Nothing to conceal, nothing to reveal, only reality with which to deal. A little bit of a ditty I've set up to try to express some of my philosophy. And 4 very important words to me here: freedom, responsibility, sympathy, knowledge. These 4 virtues sum to understanding as love of wisdom and wisdom of love. Excuse me, I have someone at the door. I wasn't expecting today. And, hello, who is this here? Oh, you're coming. Okay, I'm busy. I didn't know you were coming back. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you now. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Here, usual chaos in China. Always this way. Change, chaos, chagrin, chance, Jesus, chaos. Always China. All right, I'm back. So, the four virtues: freedom, responsibility, sympathy, knowledge, summing to understanding as love of wisdom and wisdom of love. There's a Chinese character, for wisdom and Chinese character for love. So, there you've got a bit of an introduction to me. Excuse my cold. It's China in the cold weather. Yes. Okay, slide 2. A little bit about me, background here for you, resource for your source. It's about me, Jack. The last 11 years in China, teaching business, culture, and English in universities, companies, coaching executives, doing a lot of that in the last year or two. I've done a lot of presenting of seminars and courses. I roughly bundle these together called self-knowledge and do personality models type, MBI, Myers-Briggs type indicator, the big 5, Ocean, relationships, a lot of EQ, interpersonal intimacy, many things of this nature. 12 years before I came to China, I worked in Australia doing sort of the same thing, teaching and consulting, worked in TAFE, that's technical and further education. And aged care, I worked in, did that degree for my undergraduate. Went back to university in 1999 in Brisbane, Australia. And career development, did that for various people. I started up a male-female singles introduction agency, relationship agency for single males and females in Brisbane, 1997, called Partners for Life. Then I got into palliative care, which is helping the dying, because I have lost 2 wives to cancer, died there hand in mind and mine. And through that, got into this palliative care, helping the dying. And couples and singles counseling, education. You can see some various logos over here to sort of put you into some past of me of what I've done in terms of work. And so you can see here, FACEGO in China. This is the Tsinghua University, the equivalent of Harvard in China. This is CNOOC, a Chinese national offshore oil company, the 3rd largest oil company in China, of course. SOE, state-owned enterprise. TAFE, Queensland, this is where I started out my adult teaching. Connections for Life, this was the earlier name for Partners in Life, Connections for Life in Brisbane, started up in 1997. Career building, there you see some palliative care insignias. Relationships Australia, I was their main educator in Brisbane around 2001 to 2003 or so, and there's 4 flags, and 3 citizenships I have, very unusual. Grew up in America, grew up in America, then went to Canada, got a citizenship there, then left Canada with a family and 2 children, and went to Australia, got a citizenship there. Then in 2003, I came to China. First to Ningbo, 3 years there, then the rest of the 8 years has been spent here in Beijing, where I am currently. Before teaching business startups, I was a businessman, not a very good one. I didn't make a lot of money. I lost much more than I made, but a manager of many different businesses, including women's clothing and things like that. I was an inventor, have a patented, 2 patents actually, And entrepreneurs started up my new businesses, got venture capital, wrote business plans, husband, father. I don't have biologically any children. I adopted two, a daughter and a son. I'm a writer of poetry and prose, published, not much, but a little bit, but have been writing ever since I was 22, 23, study all the time. So long-time interest in religion and spirituality, including Western Eastern mysticism culture. I was up on a mountaintop meditating for a number of months, went in as a monk into a Catholic monastery, sat in Zazen. Zen was a minor guru myself, got enlightened, and then got unenlightened, and got back to being a human. But anyway, Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, I Ching, poetry, name it, all right, that's an introduction to me. Let's get on with it. So, how the masters of money, banksters, enslave you, and what you can do to free yourself. Yeah, you're gonna see some various visuals that I've captured off the internet. There's the money masters. I like this one. Give a man a gun and he can rob a bank. Give a man a bank and he can rob the world. So true. So what my goal is in this presentation tonight, which it looks like no one's going to attend except me, is to convince you to practice personally responsible freedom, which here means understanding how the masters of money, the good old banksters, enslave you. You may not know about this, but they do, and you are. And as I put here, how the global banksters, these are the masters of money, the masters of the universe, and they're guardian wolves of financialization. Anyone who's basically involved in the money-making industry, which is roughly called financialization. Most of them are wolves and shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They're currently fleecing and feasting on you. There's the sheeple, we call them, the people sheeple. You can see a hand reaching out of the flat screen TV to shear them off, the little baby sucking on the bottle, and mom and dad watching the show and not too much aware to what's going on, and maybe some of you may be somewhat near this sheeple status. I hope not, but if you are, well, we're going to wake you up, I hope. And once you're made awake, you'll never go back to sheep, never go back to sleep, as they say. So towards this end, I discuss two books with you. The first one's going to be The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin. There's the cover of it. And the second one, briefly, Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver by Michael Maloney. And these are really two incredibly good books. Very well written, very basic. Even my Chinese friends with limited English will be able to understand them in terms of the content and the usage of words. They're not academic at all. They're very basically written and very well written. I don't like academic writing, and most of it's garbage, it's postmodern crap. But these two know how to write and know how to think, which is even more important. And after a little bit of discussion of these two books, I'm going to present a moral proposal to banish the banksters and the wolves. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later. Okay, so I'm still here, only one doing it. So now, Creature from Jekyll Island. We've got, you can see Jekyll Island up here, a shot of it from the air. So the first thing is a quote from someone that wrote a really good little precise introduction that was very well done to it. Now, where does the money come from? Where does it go? Who makes it? The money magician's secrets are unveiled. We get a close look at their mirrors and smoke machines, their pulleys, cogs, and wheels that create the grand illusion called money. A dry and boring subject? Just wait. You'll be hooked like a fish in 5 minutes. Reads like a detective story, which it really is, and I very much agree with this brief review done. It's really something. Now, I've not been able to make the PowerPoint as big as I would do on my full screen because I don't quite know how to use this thing yet, but you can see Mandrake the Magician for those of you Americans that were perhaps as ancient as I, or you've heard of Mandrake, a comic book character back in, I don't know, sort of 30s, 40s, or whatever, 50s, really interesting. So the whole idea of this, many, especially my Chinese, not know mirrors and smoke machines. This is subterfuge, hiding behind this so-called complex, and this is the point of this visual here. This is taken from The Wizard of Oz, and those of you that know the story, The Wizard of Oz is a little human being that has this big machine that scares the four somewhat intrepid travelers and pilgrims of the Wizard of Oz movie and book. A wonderful movie, by the way. It's really good to see. And the Gold Brick Road. Some put this movie apparently to exactly what we're talking about now. That's for another presentation. But so magic, smoke and mirrors. You can't see, prestidigitation, the sleight of hand, sleight of mind, especially how these banksters and their intellectual prostitutes, we call them prostitutes, and the politicians, the wolves, as I call them, that feed on the lambs and the sheeple, how they justify this smoke and mirrors, this huge machine, the wizard of debt, as it's put here, just hiding the simple facts of its extortion and stealing from you, robbery and murder even, which we'll go into, unfortunately. But you can see here the picture of Bernanke. I am the great and powerful wizard of debt. Oh, you gutless citizens, lack the heart and the brains to understand what we do. Now go. He's ordering all the people. And of course, back here's Ron Paul, the only decent politician ever, I think, in America for many, many years now. Who's a libertarian of sorts, and he's trying to pull the curtain to show what's really going on with the Fed Reserve, the fake little monsters that they really are. Okay, so on to the next slide now. On the creature from Jekyll Island, continuing the review here, but it's all true. This book is about the most blatant scam Ponzi of all history. Yep, it's all here. The cause of wars, the boom bust, the cycles, meaning inflation right now, the stock market being 17,000 plus, gold being way down, inflation like crazy around the world, Japan just doing its QE to the infinity number, depression, yeah, everyone's worried about that. Prosperity, someone's rich here. It's probably not you or me. A creature from Jekyll Island will change the way you view the world, politics, and money. I guarantee it will. If you will read this book and make the effort to understand it, which isn't that difficult, you will be shocked. Your eyes will be opened, and you will never go back to being a sheep and asleep. You will come out of the American dream or nightmare awake, and your eyes will be wide with wonder and interest and maybe some anger there driving you to. Hopefully not too much, because you've got to get grounded and understand what's happening to you, and don't let your emotions take you over and become an ideologue like most of them are. Yeah. So yeah, your worldview will definitely change, no doubt about it, and you'll never trust a politician again or a banker. These are the banksters, as we call them, gangster banksters. You can see they're controlling dear Uncle Sam, not the other way around. Here's dear Bernanke with his famous helicopter speech, dropping money upon the populace, making everything good, of course, for all of the Keynesians that think they know what's going on. And of course, they don't. They've continually failed. Their ideas have been proven empirically and historically to be wrong. Well, what can you do? You're not going to talk these ideologues out of their gods. And of course, this is what gives them their power. All right, so there you got it. The various visuals. There's the island, Jekyll Island. Next slide coming up. But now here's a good one for you. What is money? What is money? There's the visual. Climb up the stairs. Ooh, falling down. We'll work for liberty and security. First question, what is money? I've asked this a lot of my friends here in China, and of course, with their limited English, I go pretty slow, which actually is very good because then I can get to the bottom of the ideas. I have to explain them in the most basic way, in the most basic English, and use images and metaphors to try to get across the meanings of the various concepts. And so this is good work for me, and it makes me more grounded, I think, in my free eaching, as I call my teaching, which is to free each person to think for themselves about what's going on in this particular one, of course, being with the Federal Reserve and the whole bankster gangster cartel around the world. So, excuse me, usual answer, what is money? It's a medium of exchange. What is exchanging? Well, what's being exchanged? Well, goods and products, refrigerators, cars, hairbrushes, photographs, and services. I'll cut your hair, I'll mow your lawn, I'll help you invest your money. If it's a real investment service, not many of those around. I think of Bill Bonner's crew. I really like them. I think they're great. So services, doing things for you. Now, how did G&S, goods and services, get produced? Well, remember, we call it work. You put your work in, your time and energy. That's what you get paid for. This money, you go in 8 o'clock in the morning here in China, or 9 o'clock, you get out at 6 or 7. They work really hard here in China. Oh, by the way, I often say, in China, people work, but things don't. Meaning, because it's a developing country technologically, so often the computers don't work, the door handles fall off, the projectors stop halfway, can't get to the room, it's the wrong room, on and on and on. This is charming chaos in China. But the people do. The people work. Opposite to the West, the people don't work, quite literally. They vote for a living, many of them, but things do, and computers, everything I think works very well in the West. But I'm here in China because I'd rather be at a place where the people work and things don't, rather than where the things work and people don't. And by the way, I'm never going to go back to the U.S. unless the whole thing changes there. It's become a real police state, and I will not sanction it in any way. This is nothing we'll get into, not in this presentation. But okay, so money then is a store and measure of your life, your time and energy, your work, who you are as valued by others. Now, this is important, as valued by others. You have to think about this. I mean, if you're just creating something like a poet, say an artist, say a Van Gogh on your own, and other people are not interested in paying you for it or exchanging you whatever you want from them for what you offer to them, you're going to be in trouble. This is the free market, and it has its limitations like all life. We have to die, which I think is a pretty major limitation for us. And we're born. And we can't have everything at once. Resources are scarce, and you have to work for them. You have to put in time and energy that other people will value and trade you what you need from them so they can get what they need from you. So this is important to think about. It's a store and measure of your life, of your work through time and energy, but it has to be valued by others in a free exchange, free market. This is critical to understand. Okay, next slide coming up. Now, perpetual interest plus inflation equals stealth stealing of your life's work. A nice little formula there for you to explain what I'm talking about tonight. So, real money actual money, meaning commodity money, meaning gold and silver, or maybe Bitcoin. I'm not quite about that yet. So, but real money, which would be, say, paper money, currency, we would call it paper currency, as Maloney would say, Mike Maloney. He differentiates between currency and money, currency being paper, either backed or not backed by gold. And of course, since 1971, and we'll talk about this perhaps later, there has been, the paper is absolutely worthless, meaning it's not connected to any real commodity, gold, silver, that holds it in place. So, and this is the problem. So this is the stealth stealing of your life's work, because real money should be accurately and fairly storing the value of your work. You did an hour's worth of work that you got paid for at this rate. If you're a brain surgeon, you get this much. If you're a street sweeper, you get that much, but you earn this honestly. Supposedly that you did. And then that should be accurately, fairly stored. And that's what real money, true money, accurate money does. It stores what you've done in the past. It's something that you've done in the past. Money is what you've done in the past. Either it's given to you as a gift or you've had to earn it. So fiat, though, and this means by decree, and everything, remember, since 1971, all the currency is fake. It's fiat. It's just the government said, let it be. Like God. You got to believe it. So that's it. And backed up with nothing, no gold, no silver, nothing whatsoever. You're just your belief, and it's created from nothing. This is an incredible thing, which I didn't really understand at all until I read Griffin's book, and then started reading other ones on this. And of course, this is something that Maloney talks about as well. But Griffin really pins it, and his book will open your eyes terrifically this way, and very clearly put, very well explained, like Mike does in his, Ed does in his book. So now this fake currency steals from you in two ways. It steals the value of what you did, your work that you did, in two ways. This interest, and remember, this is continuous. Every second, as Visuals says over here, 1913, which is when the Federal Reserve was unfortunately created. This monster was born, ripped out of the womb untimely. New World Order elitist, interest charged every second, all day, 24/7, 365. Hey, it's taking it right out of your honestly earned currency. It goes to these jerks that are ripping you off all the time. Maybe that will help you folks see the truth. Well, hopefully after you read Ed's book, you'll see the truth that way, and you'll wake up from being asleep, and being an awake human being. But this constant forever interest, the banksters make up off of every unit of currency created from nothing. So sure, they want you to be in debt. This is the key. This is how they make money, is you just borrow them and they just crank it out from nothing. Then they get it back from you. Wonderful. That's a nice deal if you can do it. It's terribly immoral and evil. But anyway, number two, by inflation, the continuous creation of currency, the printing, and of course most of the zeros and the billions, trillions of dollars out there are not in paper. I think the estimate was something 3 to 5% only is out there in paper or in minor coin. So most of it is just blips in a computer, zeros in a computer, and just checkbook balancing acts that are just absolutely nothing there, inflation. So every time a buck or an RMB or whatever it is that's created around the world today, because they're all fiat currencies, European ones, they just steal from you, from your stored work value. This is what you have to understand. And then what you do, you're going to start to change. Okay, inflation. This is a great graph. You can see it here. 1913, 100 years later, it's down to about 3 cents. So you've got $1 or 100 cents worth about 100 years ago as the U.S. dollar. It's debased, devalued itself down to 3 cents. You've lost 97% of your time and energy. This is the way to think about it. 97% of your work that you would have done 100 years ago, it's only worth 3% today. They've sucked it from you. They've taken it from you. And of course, what they're saying here, this is the source coming from the BLS, bullshit crew, levered bullshit. So now, this is a wonderful quote from the monster Keynes, who I think is a true monster. I put him up there with, he's nearly with Hitler and Mao and Stalin and the gang, because he's done irreparable harm. I mean, they killed people, but he's set up the banksters to enable us to kill, in the end, more than what even those monsters of history have done. But here's the quote: by a continuing process of inflation, governments can confiscate secretly and unobserved an important part of the wealth of their citizens. There is no subtler, no surer means of overturning the existing basis of society than to debauch the currency, meaning to just take it down to its lowest place. The process engages all the hidden forces of economic law on the side of destruction, and does it in a manner which not one man in a million is able to diagnose. John Maynard Keynes, The Economic Consequences of Peace, 1920. Wow, he let that one slip, didn't he? Eh? Not too many people understand or read that one, and then I guess obviously not many understand or even care to. Up here, to infinity, the Weimar Republic, Zimbabwe, and beyond. Weimar Republic, they're referring to the incredible hyperinflation that went on there in 1923, peaking out in 1923. Wonderful book, The Death of Money. I recommend that you read on this incredible happening that is should be what we read instead of the Bible, to wake us up to what's really going on. And if you understand this, then you'll go along with me with what I'm going to be proposing at the end of this talk. Okay, it looks like I'm still the only one attending here. My webinar, or my web, what do they call it? Web conferencing, yeah. All right, so there you go. There's the visual showing you how much inflation has stolen your wealth from you, taken your time and energy, your life, 97% of it in 100 years. Next one coming up. This is, I think, a good metaphor. Money is the blood of mankind, of humanity. Cash flow. You know, we always talk about cash flow. Any business people, like I have my own businesses, cash flow is a critical thing. So I made this metaphor up, the blood money, and they take this blood money from you. They're taking your life from you, as I said before. The banks, the zombies, this is a good one, zombie capitalism. Zombie capitalism. Here's dear Bernanke, poor guy. They make fun of him like crazy, like Greenspan. So the fiat currency, the completely unbacked, created from nothing, empty currency, is like taking blood from you. Yeah, there you go. Sucking it right out. The banksters, the zombies, and their governments and finance industry, the financialization wolves, as I call it, most of the stock brokers, the people that just feed off of you. They feed off of your life's work. You are the sheeple. There you are. The sheeple. People rhymes with sheeple. They farm you to fleece and feast on you, quite literally. There's the wolf in the sheep's clothing. And of course, those of you that know about the Fabians, the socialists, the turtle that's slowly bringing collectivism, socialism into the world since the late 1800s. They had a sheep and a wolf in the sheep's clothing, rather. And this is a good little visual to show you there. And of course, here's the sheep will act like this, borrow, and you get fleeced. Zip. And of course, you get feasted on too. They're going to eat you in the wars. You're going to die for them. You're going to kill for them. Oh, goodness. Yep, this is stupidity compounded. Okay, next one. Now, I want to bring up the moral case for not buying state bonds, government bonds. I just came upon this in the last couple of days. And as usual, because I don't sleep very well, I guess it was about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. Whoa, I said, I was trying to get a good domain name for this idea of mine and the campaign that I want to mount on the internet to hopefully make a little bit of a difference with the banksters and the wolves out there and sheeple, waking them up to being human beings, not sleeping sheeps. This idea that ban the bond, government bonds, state bonds, cut them off, neuter them, nick their knackers, as we would say, good sheep farm boy. When I was a boy, we had to cut off the balls. This is a way to do it, cut off their funds. The banksters, the governments, the wolves, the armies need to be financed through fiat currency because they can't tax you enough that people would go crazy if they had to be taxed to the level to support the crazy wars that go on. And so I've done a little famous quote here of Randolph Bourne. It's a famous quote, "War is the health of the state." And I've taken that a little further on. Fiat money is the blood of the state upon which war and its health depend. That's me for each. So you got to figure out fiat money is a direct cause of wars. I mean, most of these wars could not be continued to be waged without fiat money being there, financed through debt, monetization of debt, because tax just can't hack it. The people won't take it. And I know there's been some arguments I read just recently on the net. Well, fiat monies doesn't, wars have been caused even when there was just metal out there, of course. But that money was debased in the Roman times as well. And it's not so much that it's the startup of the war, but it allows it to continue, because without fiat money and financing through the monetization of debt, the wars could not be continued. That's a fact, I think, that you can't argue against. So wars and fiat money only take place by the state. Only governments wage wars, and only governments have fiat money that allows them to wage wars. And this is the thing that you've got to come to grips with. You have to understand. So I am proposing, this is my moral proposition to you, we banish and abandon fiat money and wars by banning bonds. Don't buy government bonds. Do not buy them on any level of government. Well, the federal governments, the central governments are the ones that wage wars. So I guess you could get sort of off morally by just locally investing in your own local governments. I think that would be morally okay. But I think to allow any of your money to be invested in any central government is immoral. Now, I've gotten this, I'm very proud of this when I came up with this 4 o'clock this morning, popped in my mind, ban the bomb, ban the bond. Having grown up, born 1944, I'm 70. Yeah, that's right. I'm actually on the outside of the parameters, supposedly, of the baby boomer generation, although I include myself in on it. So when we were in our teens, in our early 20s, we had ban the bomb, although I never went for this, but this was a popular thing, ban the bomb. So I'm playing on this, ban the bond. So there's my domain name. I'll be putting that into my website that contains my other 10 domain names. This will now be my 11th, and banthebond.com. So, yeah, this is what we can do. Don't buy government bonds. Let the state fade into history with slavery as the unnecessary evils they are. Let's do away with the state. Let's do away with government. We don't need it. Like we don't need slavery. We don't need to be slaves to the state. We don't need to be slaves to the banksters and the wolves. And the way to do that is do not encourage them by voting for them. Just banish them in that way, and then banish them in the way that will really hurt them by not investing. Do not allow your money, your time and energy, your work to be used in upholding these monsters. Don't do it. You can stop it. So I'm going to propose that we actually look out there, and anyone who cares about being transparent and morally proper and right, then you should be able to show everyone that your investments do not include any investments in the central governments anywhere in the world today, because every government is promoting war. Every government, and every government is stealing from you directly via inflation and through the interest rates that are being charged. So the banksters control all of this. And once you read Griffin's book and Maloney's book, you'll really understand this. And other ones by Mullins and many out there. Many. I'm trying to think of this. The one on Russian. He doesn't come to mind now, but we'll talk about this a little bit later. So don't buy government bonds. And there's the old peace symbol that's going on there, ban the bomb. Let the state fade into history with slavery as the unnecessary evils they are. Don't cater to. Don't invest. Ban the bond. Ban the bonds then. Because all wars come from fiat financing, and fiat financing must be supported by government bonds. So stop buying them. Join me. Cut off their blood supply. Don't give them any more transfusions from yourself. Next one now, we're going to go to G. Edward Griffin's The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm going to read the contents and summaries here, and feel free to stop me at any point. Of course, there's no one stopping now, so I won't do that. And I had sent a 5-page document around to my Chinese friends so that they can read along with me. But unfortunately, I'm not going to have any of them here, it looks like. There's an interesting quote from Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the granddaddy of the whole thing. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. Thank you for your honesty. So read it and weep and laugh and wake up. Sheeple, don't let them control you anymore through the fiat money. Get away from, ban the bonds. Don't be part of it. So there's the cover of the Jekyll Island one, the second look at the Federal Reserve. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to open up my creature from Jekyll Island and get this. There you go. So you can see that there. All right, now we're going to read to you from Introducing the Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin, contents and chapter summaries. This has been prepared by me to promote my free friends. This is what I call my free friends community. I'm hoping I'm talking to you out there. We'll be part of it. And my website, resourceforyoursource.com. I'll tell you about that later. Okay, now I found something too very interesting that I was just looking at a recent movie made for TV called Ford, which is a wonderful film, by the way, to see a man who's really an interesting guy. And he railed against the bankers, really disliked them, hated them. I don't think you should hate anything, but certainly understand them and dislike them and understand where they're coming from so that you don't go there. Now, table of contents. First section, excuse me. What creature is this? This is the first part. And then Ed says, what is the Federal Reserve System? The answer may surprise you. It is not federal, and there are no reserves. Furthermore, the Federal Reserve banks are not even banks. The key to this riddle is to be found not at the beginning of the story, but in the middle. Since this is not a textbook, we are not confined to a chronological structure. The subject matter is not a curriculum to be mastered, but a mystery to be solved. So let us start where the action is. All right, the first chapter is the journey to Jekyll Island, it's called. It's a wonderful story. He's a good writer, Ed. Very well written. He's a good artist. I'm just looking to see if anyone else is coming on. No one else is coming on. I better just check and see whether I'm still connected on my, yeah, good. Okay, I'm still connected there. So I'm going to be able to record this, put it on, hopefully, the YouTube for you, and you can see what this would have been if you would have attended with me live. But the first chapter, the journey to Jekyll Island, 1910, takes you back during November, I believe it was. A wonderful setting, the train going down south. Jekyll Island, by the way, is an island just off the southeast coast of America, just off the coast of Georgia. Of course, I was born in Miami, Florida, so I'm a southerner. And so he tells that story in the first chapter, and I won't go any more into it here. Now, the second chapter, the name of the game is Bailout. Of course, I think we all know bailout. Some of my Chinese friends may not, with their limited English, but that means using your money, your blood, your time and energy, your work, your life, to help out these poor billionaires that just couldn't hack it. The General Motors peoples and the poor Rothschilds, they need your money because they only have a couple trillion themselves, So, yeah, so we had to bail them out. Chapter 3, protectors of the public. Oh, yeah, like the wolves. They protect the sheeples, all right. Yeah, we'll talk about that. 4, home sweet loan. Nice play off of home sweet home. So this is how they steal from you right in your home. This is the way to do it. Protectors of the public. And the 5th one, nearer to heart's desire. 5th chapter, 6, building the new world order, that famous NWO, New World Order. Such a big 3 words that we're going to have to, all of us that care about our lives and others in this world are going to have to be dealing with in the next years to come. Okay, second part is called A Crash Course on Money. Now, you can learn a lot about money from this. Ed's a very clear writer like Mike is. Boy, I learned a lot from these two. I'll read this to you. The 8 chapters contained in this and the following section deal with material that is organized by topic, not chronology, not by time. He jumps around, and I think it's very effective, like in movies, cutting from scene to scene, going ahead in the future, going back. Several of them will jump ahead of events that are not covered until later. Furthermore, the scope is such that the reader may wonder what, if any, is the connection with the Federal Reserve System. Well, please be patient, Ed says. The importance will eventually become clear, and it will. It is the author's intent to cover concepts and principles before looking at events, and I agree with him. I think you need to have the concepts very clearly in mind about what money is, what currency is, interest, all of this, and really what the Federal Reserve System, so-called bank, is. Without this background, the history of the Federal Reserve is boring. With it, the story emerges an exciting drama which profoundly affects our lives today. And it is. I've listened to this on my MP3, and wonderfully done. It's so interesting. I go to sleep with it and listen to it at night and continue to learn from it and put it into my neurons very carefully. Get this back. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it is. It's quite entertaining. It will hold you, as the original introduction said. It's exciting. Okay, he says, so let us begin this adventure with a few discoveries about the nature of money itself. And then he includes chapter 7, The Barbaric Metal. That's coming from John Maynard Keynes. And a good essay, by the way, on this is by Lou Rockwell of the Mises.org, magnificent organization that you can get free downloads of some of the best literature on the Austrian economics and on libertarians and anarcho-libertarians. But this was John Maynard Keynes, that evil man that I really despise. He said, of course, the barbaric metal of gold. Who wants this? Of course, because who wants this because the banksters can't control you if you have this. So yeah, very barbaric. Of course, he's the barbarian, as we well know. 8, fool's gold. Fool's gold, pyrites, the mineral. We're not talking so much about this. We're talking about being fooled by those who want to take you off the gold standard. And this is how they did it in 1913, after the meeting in 1910 and the creation of that abomination called the Federal Reserve come to life, unfortunately, as a zombie in 1913, been sucking your blood and brains ever since. Fool's gold, yeah. 9, the secret science. He goes into how the whole thing is manipulated, all the gears and pulleys, as they say, the smoke and the mirrors. This will all be made apparent to you. And finally, 10, the Mandrake mechanism. You remember earlier in one of my slides, I put Mandrake, the magician. He uses, he's even older than I am, dear Ed. I think he's about 83 now, so he's got another 12 or 13 years on me. He looks very healthy, too, like me, and I think he's taking good care of his brain and body, obviously, and still out there doing a lot of good for the rest of us and himself. Third part, the new alchemy. Alchemy, I always think of Carl Jung when I think of this, the transmutation of lead into gold. So, okay, this is Ed's words here. The ancient alchemists sought in vain to convert lead into gold. Modern alchemists have succeeded in that quest. Here's a nice poetic metaphor that captures it very well. The lead bullets of war have yielded an endless source of gold for those magicians who control the Mandrake mechanism. And I think of Wilfred Owen's poem, Dolce et pro patria more, sweet and fitting it is to die for one's country. Oh, goodness, all the people slaughtered for these banksters. And by the way, I was an early escapee from the sheep pen. Way back in '67, I escaped from America because I wouldn't go kill for our lovely government back then. I sent them an E. Cummings poem I can recall, and they chased me all over. I spent a little time in jail, but I was one of those draft dodgers that ran to Canada, thank goodness, that protected me back then in those years. From 67 on. Long story, another story to tell you about. But okay, so yeah, it says as long as the Mandrake mechanism is allowed to function, future wars are inevitable. They sure are. And this is what I'm saying. Ban the bond. Ban the bond. Do not buy into the corrupt central government's bonds. Cut their blood supply off. Let them shrivel up and finally die as the zombies they are. Do not support them. And of course, I take that as an anarcho-capitalist, or as a person that says no government whatsoever, along with Murray Rothbard and Lou Rockwell and the gang. We're saying no way. And so I'm saying this is one way we can get them, is to stop putting any of your investment monies into buying central government bonds. Maybe other governments, lower levels will be okay. So it's saying this is the story of how that came to pass. Chapter 11, the Rothschild formula, which is, hey, let's start up those wars because we make a lot of money from them, loaning out money to each of the combatants on each side. Hey, go to it so we can earn some more, and let's supply arms for both sides and see where it goes. Chapter 12, Sink the Lusitania, World War I, often nominated as the cause of getting America into World War I. Dear Wilson, oh, what a tragedy. So you'll need to read up on this, and of course it's going to shock you. Chapter 13, Masquerade in Moscow, putting on the mask of the Wall Street bankers that funded the startup of that delicious business called communism, USSR. Oh, wonderful Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin and the gang that murdered maybe 60 million of their own people, not to mention how many millions during the wars as well. Yes, delightful people. Masquerade in Moscow, you will find out about the people, and there's I'm trying to think of this guy's name that is so Wall Street in Washington. Anyway, it'll come back. Chapter 14, the best enemy money can buy. This is the scholar from the California Institute, whose name just is escaping me. Not the Stanton something, but anyway. You'll read all about that. Horrible and shocking, and boy, it'll surprise you. It did me. I didn't realize I had heard about this, but until I read it. And by the way, these have been pretty well confirmed and verified. I've read the few people that are so-called critiqued Griffin's work here and the other people's, and I don't find they have any foundation in their critique whatsoever. They've often Ed's put down, and the rest of the Mullins have put down the actual words of the people involved as the banksters in the New World Order, and boy, it's there. You can read it for yourself. So I think we haven't caught red-handed with your blood money. So the fourth section coming up, A Tale of Three Banks. It has been said that those who are ignorant of history are doomed to repeat its mistakes, my dear friend. History must repeat itself. A philosopher, I'm trying to think of his name too. It may come as a surprise to learn that the Federal Reserve System is America's fourth central bank, not its first. And I knew they had a couple, and I wasn't too clear on it, but yeah, it brought me up to date. We've been through all this before, and each time the result has been the same: broke, busted, bankrupt. Start all over again. Don't learn any lessons from Santillán, is the philosopher I'm trying to think of that quoted that you must repeat the mistakes if you don't listen to history. Well, most of us just keep repeating. The banksters just keep repeating. Then let's set the coordinates of our time machine to the colony of Massachusetts in the year 1690. To activate, turn to chapter 15. And chapter 15 is called The Lost Treasure Map. Chapter 16, The Creature Comes to America from England, London, the Bank of England. 17, A Den of Vipers. This is referring to President Johnson's feisty guy he was. He made a lot of other, maybe some mistakes, but this was the good part. And one of the few presidents I could even partially admire. Thank goodness he fought against the central bank back then and beat him in this level. The Den of Vipers is a famous saying that he put to the Federal Reserve master, the slave master back then, and he beat him. 18, Loaves and Fishes, the miracle of the Civil War, the greenback, the first, well, not the first, but one of the few fiat currencies before 1913. Finally, chapter 19, Greenbacks and Other Crimes. This is the funding of the fiat money that funded the Civil War, that butcher war, which should not be the Civil War. It should be called a war of secession. It was not a civil war. The definition of civil war is two competing powers for control of a central geographic nation. And of course, the South never wanted to control America. It just wanted to leave. It wanted to divorce. And dear Lincoln, this wasn't about slavery. You'll have to read all about this, but that's another thing. Okay, part 5, The Harvest. Monetary and political sciences continue to expound the theoretical merits of the Federal Reserve System, all the smoke and mirrors, the pulleys, the gears, the Wizard of Oz machine. It's become a modern act of faith that economic life simply could not go on without it. Oh, we need the Federal Reserve System. Oh, sure, like we need a home. Yeah, right. But the time for theory is past. The creature moved into its final lair in 1913 and has snorted and thrashed about the landscape ever since. And it has. And if we wish to know if it is a creature of service, is it a domestic dog that's protecting us? Don't think so. Or a beast of prey? Yep, it's eating you up right now. We merely have to look at what it has done. And after the test of all those years, we can be sure that what it has done, it will continue to do. This is for sure. Or to use the biblical axiom, a tree shall be known by the fruit it bears, let us now examine the bitter, poisonous fruit of that harvest. Chapter 20, the London Connection. Chapter 21, competition is a sin, a famous quote from Rockefeller and the gang when he got his cartel together there from 1910 up to 1913 when they created the Federal Reserve. The London Connection refers, of course, to the Rothschilds and all the gang. J.P. Morgan's coming over from London and Europe to help the Americans fleece and feast on us. Then chapter 22, the creature swallows Congress. Yep, they put it into act. There started up the great Federal Reserve, 1913, and of course the income tax too. 23, the Great Duck Dinner, a wonderful metaphor story that Ed makes is, as he's saying, that there was a farmer that loved wild ducks, loved to eat them, and but these clever ducks, they can fly out of the range of his shotgun, never get them. So what to do? How to get these ducks? How can I? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll create the nice little welfare states, like dear Bismarck did. Get them all there, the sheeples, so the ducks, so I can feed on them. We'll give them the corn, so he scatters the corn all around the pond, and the ducks land and eat. Oh, this is great, they say. And then to keep them during the winter, instead of having them fly away, the farmer builds a beautiful, but doable little shack that all the ducks can get in there and keep warm with each other and breathe, have fun. Yeah, nice in the pen, the welfare pen. Sheep pen, duck pen, we feed you, we take care of you. Oh yeah, you can't live without us, you need us. They get so fat they can't even fly anyway. Why bother? I just want to watch my TV, have children, stay on welfare. Hey, everything's great, no problems. A great duck dinner. So of course the farmer has a nice fat duck every day. He doesn't have to shoot them down, doesn't have to depend on chance to get them. He's cultivated it very well. He's farming them very well. The sheeple, the ducks. Hey, great duck dinner. You betcha. Okay, section 6, time travel into the future. In the previous sections, the previous sections of this book, we have traveled through time. We began our journey by stepping into the past. As we crisscrossed the centuries, we observed wars, treachery, profiteering, and political deception. That has been brought to us in the present. Now we are prepared to ride our time machine into the future. It will be a hair-raising trip, it is, and much of what lies ahead will be unpleasant. Not only unpleasant, but deeply revolting and sickening and disgusting. You will have difficulty keeping your dinner down. And hopefully you will never have eaten duck dinners like that anyway. But it has not yet come to pass. A lot of it has, unfortunately. It's merely the projection of present forces. If we do not like what we see, we still have an opportunity to change those forces. The future will be what we choose to make it. Yes, Ed, I agree with you. Keep positive on this so we can make it. The first thing you do, ban the bond. Ban the bond. www.banthebond.com. Come join me. Don't invest in these monsters. Don't invest in the central government, the bonds, the wars, the blood, the killings, the destructive creation rather than the creative destruction of the free market. This is the destructive creation of the welfare state. Don't do it. Stay away from them. Don't allow them your blood money. Starve them. And let them die out along with slavery and the zombies. They need your brains, your mind, your blood to feed on in order to keep going. Cut it off. Banish. Ban them. just walk away, abandon them. Don't rebel, just abandon. They're not worth fighting against. Just leave them go and stay out of their way. They're vicious wolves. Okay, here's chapter 1, the summary. This is another great thing of Ed's book, is that he has done the great service for us of putting a summary at the end of each chapter. Chapter 1, the journey to Jekyll Island. Summary. The basic plan for the Federal Reserve System was drafted at a secret meeting held in November of 1910 at the private resort of J.P. Morgan on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. Those who attended represented the great financial institutions of Wall Street and indirectly Europe as well. The reason for secrecy was simple. Had it been known that the rival factions of the banking community had joined together, the public would have been alerted to the possibility that the bankers were plotting an agreement in restraint of trade, which of course is exactly what they were doing. What emerged was a cartel agreement with 5 objectives. First, stop the growing competition from the nation's newer banks. Second, obtain a franchise to create money out of nothing for the purpose of lending that continuous interest. We want to get that money in. Third, get control of the reserves of all banks so that the more reckless ones would not be exposed to currency drains and bank runs. Fourth, get the taxpayer, that's you, sheeple, to pick up the cartel's inevitable losses. And fifth and final, convince Congress that the purpose was to protect the public. Yeah, we built the duck house, we built the sheep pen just to take care of you. We're protecting you. Well, of course, we might eat a few of you, millions of you, and fleece you every day, but hey, we're protecting you. It was realized, this back then now, that the bankers would have to become partners with the politicians and that the structure of their cartel would have to be a central bank. The record shows that the Fed has failed to achieve its stated objectives. That is because they were never its true goals. As a banking cartel, and in terms of the 5 objectives stated above, it has been an unqualified success indeed. Now, because I've been now, an hour here, and I'm still the only one. I'm the only one attending my own event, so often happens. I'm not going to read any more through the chapters, but I've got them all down. I've taken the summaries out of the book and put them into the order here. What I do want to end up with is, Ed ends up with an educational crusade, and this is going to be part of my campaign that I want to talk about. Now, I'm going to just read chapter 26, a realistic scenario of Ed here. Conclusions, a summary in his own words. We have finally come to the end of this book. It was not a textbook on banking theory. It was a whodunit. And by now, you know the answer. We have covered a vast expanse of history, he certainly has, and have wandered far afield from our main topic. It was necessary. Without the larger view, the case against the Federal Reserve System would have been weak. It would have omitted the elements of war, funded by bonds, so don't buy bonds, revolution, revolting, making you sick, depression, making you down, and fraud, lying to you wholesale. Without that long journey, we would be limited to a sterile discussion of interest rates, discount policies, and reserve ratio. That's not where it's at. That's smoke and mirrors. And it's been so good to put you into this. That is not where the body is hidden, the zombie. In the foreword, it was stated that there were 7 reasons to abolish the Federal Reserve System. It's time to repeat them here. Here's the core, people. Do it. First, it is incapable of accomplishing its stated objectives. It is a cartel operating against the public interest. They're not doing it for you, my friends. They're not doing it for you. I think of George Carlin's thing, you'll have to watch that video. I have that. I show it to a lot of my friends here in China, around the world. Second, it is the supreme instrument of usury. I think Ezra Pound here. It generates our most unfair tax, stealth tax, stealing from you. Third, it encourages war, maybe the worst of all. So many millions decimated, sacrificed, slaughtered, lamb cutlets on the serving. Disgusting. So sad. It destabilizes the economy. My God, how much have we gone up and down since 1913 under the illusion that the Federal Reserve was supposed to stabilize everything. What lies and fraud. The fourth one, it's an instrument of totalitarianism. This is where the New World Order is coming from. Yep, let's control it all. Whoever controls the money, as Rothschild said, controls the government, controls the world. So you've got to get smart. Sheep will wake up. Don't go back to sheep sleep. The purpose of this book has been to demonstrate the accuracy of these assertions. So there you see it. A plan for recovery was finally presented, which involved 16 steps, each based upon lessons which emerged from history. These lessons were mingled with a large amount of theory which is traceable only to the mind of the author himself. Which is to say, there is no guarantee the plan will work, but it is a plan. It is better to fail trying than to do nothing. Like men on a sinking ship, we must risk the water. We cannot stay where we are. I agree. There undoubtedly are technical flaws in these proposals, for the mechanism is merely a prototype. Someone surely will discover a gear that will not mesh or a lever that is disconnected. It will need the additional work of specialists in many diverse fields. Well, I'm a generalist and putting in my 2 cents worth here. Even then, the job will not be complete, for it must finally be handed over to those who are skilled in drafting legislation. Their task will be twofold. First, they must make it workable in the real world of politics. I have sore doubts about this. Secondly, they must prevent loopholes and vagaries which would eventually subvert the plan. But none of these considerations should deter us from beginning the process. We may not have answers to all the technical questions, but we do have an answer to the big question. We do know that the Federal Reserve System must be abolished. Therefore, begin. I agree. And I don't so much agree with the fact that you're going to do it through replacing it with another government. Being an anarcho-libertarian, I think it's best to abandon all of the governments and go on the spontaneous order of the individual. But, okay, back to Ed. The creature has grown large and powerful since its conception on Jekyll Island. It now roams across every continent. It compels the masses to serve it, feed it, obey it, worship it. If it is not slain, it will become our eternal Lord and Master. Can it be slain? Yes, it can. How will it be slain? By piercing it with 1,000,000 lances of truth. Who will slay it? 1,000,000 crusaders with determination and courage. The crusade has already begun. And this comes into me, which is probably the more important one, in his words on an emotional crusade, which is basically what I'm doing here with this video to you. Educational crusade, Ed's words. The best investment one can make at this time is to finance an educational crusade. Americans have allowed their nation to be stolen from right under their noses because they did not understand what was happening. There is no hope for the future as long as that condition remains. The starting point for any realistic plan for survival and beyond is the awakening of America. What does that entail? I would just say the awakening of America. We need to awaken the world. America is only a very small part of it now these days. These are the tasks. Number one, become self-informed. Yeah, read the books. The Creature from Jekyll Island, read Mike's book, read many others, Wall Street Over America, or Mullen's books, read. Become self-informed. That's not as easy as it sounds. It involves a major commitment of time and money for books, recordings, and seminars. Do it. And actually, you don't have to, if you don't have a lot of money, you do have time and the ability to search on the internet. You can get most of this material without paying your money, except maybe it's a good way to get rid of your fiat money. But for me, who doesn't believe in copyright, being an anarcho-libertarian, and along with not that many libertarians now are against intellectual property, well, I certainly am, you can get most of this free if you know where to look. So, yeah, it can be done. So, become a pamphleteer, number two. Get out there, develop a mailing list, emailing list of friends who you think would be most receptive to learning more about these issues. Send them something every month that is informative and not too long to read. See the end of this chapter for information on how to obtain suitable publications. 3, join forces with others of like mind. There is strength in numbers. This is what I want to do with my Free Friends community by the internet around the world, and maybe we'll have a physical bricks and mortar place that I can end up with. This is mine will travel. When you go to my website, you'll see about that. 3 people acting alone are a force of 3. When acting together, however, they multiply their efforts, synergy, and equal a force of 9. That is the power of organization. When choosing an organization, look for experienced and principled leadership, which has proven that it understands the deeper issues and cannot be sidetracked by the cabal, by the politicians, by the wolves for their prostitutes, as we call them, the intellectuals, the court jesters that back up the people like Krugman, Paul Krugman. I call him Crude Man because he's so crude in his thinking and so crude in his presentation. I don't know how people can believe in this guy, but they do. He's got a PhD and he's won the the Nobel Prize. Oh my God. All right, enough of that. Number 4, form an educational study group. Give it an enticing name like the Reality Club or the Awareness Lunch Bunch. Make the meetings interesting and short. Use local speakers. Ask members to give book reviews, show videos, have mock debates, throw parties. The goal is to reach new people, not to preach to the choir. Yeah, I think this is very important. I hope my video from today can get out there to the line online, and some people can get the version now of the creature from Jekyll Island and my slant on the whole thing. Yeah. 5, form ad hoc committees along with other like-minded friends to promote specific projects and programs. Here are a few hypothetical examples covering a range of issues. The Committee for Sound Money, Parents for Better Education, Americans with Tax Relief, etc. I'm not going to go too much more than that. Ed, believes in, as he says, this is an excellent way to bring pressure to bear on the political structure at the same time attract the support of new people. Assure you, I don't think going through politics is going to do it. I'm not up for that, but Ed is. Oh, that's good. 6, expand your influence within the community. People seldom follow strangers. Become known and respected for your knowledge. Join groups which are influential within your city or profession. Political groups are particularly important regardless of parties, so I disagree for that. Okay, I'm going to skip that point there. 7, use politics, don't get used by it. Well, I don't think that you can use it without getting used by it. So being an anarcho-libertarian, I say don't vote. It only encourages them. Leave them alone to their just desserts. Let them eat themselves. The camels they are, the zombies they are. They need you to feed on. Don't give them you. Banish them. Walk away from them. Abandon them. Don't buy their bonds. Buy, no bond. Ban the bond. Ban the bombs then too. Banthebond.com. Join me. Don't put your money into them. And by the way, thinking of this real quick now, while it just popped into my mind, I want all of the so-called intellectuals that are speaking against, especially America, like Noam Chomsky. He's such a hypocrite. Gosh, I dislike him almost as intensely as a George Bush, because even though he's done some good things, his hypocrisy is just monumental. He's a disgusting man. And of course, he hates real anarcho-libertarians like me and the libertarians like Ron Paul. And he's part of the power structure himself, as far as I'm concerned. And let's ask him to be transparent, ask him to put out be transparent and to show us his stocks and bonds, what he's investing in. And you will see, as in the book that came out on, don't do as I say, do as I, don't do as I do as I say, or something like that. Anyway, the hypocrisy of him, they showed him and Michael Moore to be the hypocrites they are, this left-wing intellectuals. They're really collectivists. They're wolves in sheep clothing, or I like to say sheep in wolves clothing. So these are people that look into their financial records, and you will see they are making their money blood money off of the blood money. So they're supporting the very people they're talking against, and they're getting fat and rich, and their families are too. And of course, the Chomskys justify, so, well, I have my family to take care of. Yeah, well, Hitler had his family to take care of too. Come on, Chomsky. Chomsky, I call anyone that likes the Noam Chomsky is a terrible man. So yeah, this is what we got to do. Put your money, your financial where your mouth is. Let everyone see what you're investing in and what you're living on. And if you're morally correct, then show people this. I have no investments whatsoever. I've never wanted to invest in it. It was never interested me. I've always wanted to produce things. I've always thought making money from money was never really a very manly thing to do. I know other people like Bill Bonner, I think, who I respect, I guess, does this, but I don't like doing it. So anyway, okay. So finally, he says, I'm going to skip a lot of this thing about the politics. Whereas the final one here that I think is the way to work within party politicals so imperative. What he said. So yeah. Anyway, he ends up just with politics. Don't get used by it. Use it. Which again, as I said, I don't think so. But yeah, we can get out in this education program. This is the important thing that we need to do. Okay, so that ends it for Griffin's book, and let me just shift into my next one here. Next slide, New Guide to Investing Gold and Silver, Michael Maloney. I really like Mike. I think he's a great guy. And I first came on when he was reading from Atlas Shrugged about money, the section on this, and he's a great guy. And I'm going to be buying gold and silver from him. I highly recommend him. I like this visual here, running from money over the bridge, the chasm into gold, the safety of gold, guide to investing in gold and silver. So in this one, reading of contents, parts of chapter 1, I was going to do this for the people I'm going to attend. Obviously, they're not here. Well, okay. So let me just briefly read this here. Excuse me, my cold. So the contents, going into part 1 yesterday, chapter 1, Battle of the Ages, chapter 2, The Wealth of Nations, chapter 3, Old Glory, chapter 4, Greed, War, and the Dollar's Demise, chapter 5, From Deep in the Woods, that's Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, the whole thing that set us up just after World War II, The Golden Bull came charging, chapter 6, Booms and Crashes, Part 2 today, Chapter 7, What's the Value? Chapter 8, The Dark Cloud. Chapter 9, The Perfect Economic Storm. Chapter 10, Coming in from the Cold to Gold. Chapter 11, The Silver Lining in Those Clouds. Part 3 tomorrow. Chapter 12, The Pendulum Swings. The Shifting of Wealth from one asset base into the other. He puts this so well. I didn't know any of this before him, and he's really given me a lot of hope. I never thought the free market could survive and win against the wolves of the banksters, but he showed me that it could, so I have the faith in it now. Chapter 13, Golden Castles. Part 4, How to Invest in Precious Metals. Chapter 14, Beware the Pitfalls. Chapter 15, Who Are You and What's Your Plan? Chapter 16, Let's Get Physical. Chapter 17, Everything is illuminated in the light of the past. And Mike does a good job of bringing this through and up into it. Okay, I'm reading from his preface. I believe the greatest investment opportunity in history is knocking on your door. You can open it or not. The choice is yours. For the past 2,400 years, a pattern has continually repeated in which governments debase and dilute their money supply until a point where the common psyche of the populace and the collective mind of a country begin to feel that something isn't right. You probably feel that way right now. I hope you do, because wow. As the debasement progresses, the population senses the loss of their purchasing power, then something miraculous happens. Through the free market system, the will of the public causes gold and silver to automatically revalue. This is the part that gave me hope. I didn't realize this. In doing so, it accounts for all the currency that was created since the last revaluation. Automatic, and it's natural. Gold and silver have always done this, and they always will. People have an innate sense of the rarity of gold and silver. When paper money becomes too abundant and thus loses value, man always turns back to the precious metals. When the masses come rushing back, the value, purchasing power of gold and silver increases exponentially. During these events, there is always an enormous wealth transfer, and it is within your power to choose whether it is transformed toward you or away from you. Toward you or away from you. If you choose to have it transferred towards you, then you must first educate yourself and second, take action. And that's what this video and his books and Ed's books are about. So take the action, learn, get self-knowledge. So this book is about, this is back to Mike's reading words, this book is about both education and taking action. In its pages, you will find both historical perspective and practical advice about how to take advantage of what I believe to be the biggest precious metals boom ever. At first, you might be surprised by the amount of history I've laid out here, but I assure you there is a reason to my rhyme, and it's very well set out, by the way, very simply done. For it is only by understanding our past that we can truly know the present. Santayana would very much agree with this, as I do. And presently we are faced with a very rare opportunity to increase our wealth exponentially if we are armed with the right knowledge. This book will equip you with all you need to become a successful precious metals investor and will equip you with the knowledge you need to take your financial future into your own hands. Enjoy. And here's the introduction. This book will change and expand your context if you let it, and please do. Read it. It's simple. You can get it on MP3 as well. You can get it downloaded free, by the way, so if you know where to look. Sorry, Mike, but I hope you will forgive me with this because I am an anarcho a libertarian, and I don't agree with property right with intellectual property rights. Sorry. We will explore some very contextual stories of how gold and silver have revalued themselves throughout history as governments have used the currencies just as the United States is doing today. We'll talk about bubbles, mania, tulips, South Sea, and panics, because every investor should have some understanding of mass psychology and dynamics. After all, it is greed and fear that move the markets. After we've explored the stories history provides for us, I will show where we are today economically, which is on the brink of economic disaster, which we will call the perfect economic storm. In the United States, the recklessness with which we spend and the poor planning our government employs has created an economic momentum that is unsustainable. As you will see, our currency, the dollar, is on the way to crashing, and this can only lead to far higher values for gold and silver. This is the wealth transfer he's talking about. Together, we will study the current state of the U.S. and global economies and the supply-demand fundamentals of gold and silver versus the U.S. dollar. You will also learn about two of the many natural economic cycles that repeat and repeat throughout history. One is the stock cycle, where stocks and real estate outperform gold, silver, and commodities, and then the cycle reverses and becomes a commodity cycle where gold, silver, and commodities outperform stocks and real estate. The other cycle is less known, less regular, and less frequent. The currency cycle, where societies start with quality money, gold, silver, or gold and silver paper backed by gold and silver, then going to fractional banking until finally 1971 cut the umbilical cord by any means to holding you back until you're free floating to do the monstrous stuff that's been done. Move to quantity currency, to fiat currency, then back again. Because no fiat currency has ever lasted. All paper fiat currency has ended, either shift back to gold-based or have completely destroyed themselves. They've had to start out all over again, and we're not going to be different, believe me. Mike knows this, Ed knows it too. Okay, these cycles swing like a pendulum throughout time, and they provide economic barometer for the astute investor. The greatest wealth can be accumulated in the shortest period of time when gold and silver revalue themselves. I believe this has already begun And I believe that this revaluation will be staggering in its economic impact as the perfect convergence of economic cycles are brewing the perfect economic storm. These cycles that ebb and flow throughout history are as natural as the coming of the tides, and while betting against them may be hazardous to your financial health, investing with them can bring you great wealth. This book will unfold in 4 parts. Part 1, yesterday. In part 1 of this book, we will study some of the lessons history teaches us about economic cycles, paper currency, and their effect on gold and silver. I will give you examples of how gold and silver have always won out of fiat currency, and this really was good for my morale. A fancy term for money that is not backed by something tangible like gold or silver, fiat. I will also show you how manias and panics can change economic conditions in the blink of an eye. It's important to understand the dynamics of each because they will both play a role in what I believe will be the greatest wealth transfer in history. And he puts this so well and very understandable. Part 2 today. In part 2, we will cover the financial short-sightedness of the United States. Short-sighted, blind, glaucoma, forget it. They can't see even that far ahead. Today, the dangerous game that the United States and China are playing with trade surpluses and deficits here in Beijing, and the potentially disastrous economic results. We will also see how inflation of the currency supply is not only hurting you financially, poor person's taking your blood, draining it from you, but ushering in the demise of the U.S. dollar. Jim Rickards is going to be talking about the death of the dollar, the currency wars. Then I'll wrap it up with the fundamentals of gold and silver, and he does so wrap it up very well. Part 3 tomorrow. Once we're done learning what history has to teach us and have gained an understanding of the economic conditions we face today, we will explore how that information impacts our tomorrow, our future, and our family's future. I'll show you how to not only protect yourself from the coming perfect economic storm, but also how to prosper from it by applying lessons we've learned in the past and things the present is teaching us now. As you probably guessed, this will have something to do with wisely investing in gold and silver. That's probably why you bought the book in the first place. Well, that's not really why I bought it, but okay. Part 4, how to invest in precious metals. As you'll see, and I hope come to believe, the best possible investments given today's economic environment are gold and silver, and I really think this may be Bitcoin too. In the last section of this book, I'll give you some good sound advice on the ins and outs of the precious metals investing, and he does. His videos, by the way, are just tremendous educational pieces. I think he's got 6 or 7 in a series of the history of money, waking you up to this whole thing. Great. Well done, Mike. Thank you. For many, precious metal investing is an alien environment with a reputation for being populated by a bunch of kooks and conspiracy theorists. Edward has something to say about the conspiracy. We're all breathing it continuously, always have been through history, and it is to some extent. But don't let a few bad apples ruin the whole barrel. As you'll see, history is well on the side of these kooks who love their gold and silver. Part 4 will demystify the concept of investing gold and silver. Investing in metals is not only relatively easy, but also very safe. And I'm just in the midst of doing that now, probably through Mike. So yeah, I definitely think he's legit. I would go with him. Above all, as I mentioned earlier, this book's about changing your context. The reason precious metals investing seems so alien and out there is because there are very powerful and wealthy companies and individuals that have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo, the status quo. Yeah, they want you to play their game. They want you to be good sheeple, stay asleep, believe in the American dream, as Garland would say, because you're never going to wake up from it if you believe in it. What I mean by that is that they benefit financially by making sure you keep your money in their hands. Yeah, just keep on letting them drain the blood from you. You just keep buying their bonds. Let them just drain it. Precious metals, back to precious metals essentially eliminate the middleman. There you go. They are the only financial assets that you have to be in the financial system. Take it outside. Take it out, by the way. No financial advisor gets a bonus for pushing you into them like when you buy stocks and mutual funds. One of the reasons I'm to be part of the close games, playing, back to his work, playing their game is all fine and dandy if you don't care to increase your financial intelligence or to invest wisely. But when the whole system comes crashing down, Don't say I didn't warn you after you finish reading this book. And if I've done my job correctly, you will never be able to look at the financial institutions the same way again. Yeah, absolutely agree with him. Your context will be changed, and a new horizon as bright as the morning sun will be before you. I'll see you on the other side. Yeah, great. So, okay, I'm not going to read any more of that. So we finished up with Mike's book there, and going into my last few. I've got an hour and a half here so far. I'm still the only one here. Okay. So next one here to click on. Now, list for relevant material. Have a look at these. First one's Mike's site, goldsilver.com. Next one's Ed's site, realityzone.com. Next one, Mises.org, tremendous resource. I've been many years. I'm proud to say I got early on with Hotmail. My email Hotmail is vonmises.com. I've always been very pleased that I could capture that early on. He's one of my heroes, definitely, along with Murray and a few of the other ones there. Next one, Jeff, dollarvigilante.com. Excellent. Jeff's a good anarcho-libertarian out there in Acapulco. Really a cool guy. Never use his words, but he does. That's his generation. Dollarvigilante.com. Highly recommended. David Stockman, my generation. Very smart man, very witty and pretty wise and very sharp tongue. And he's played their game. He's, been part of the Reagan administration, very high up, secretary, I guess, of Treasury or whatever. But wonderful book, the Deformation book out there. But his corner is well worth reading. I get emails from it every day. Keep learning from him. Great stuff. Wolfstreet.com. Great. Radical analysis on global economy. ZeroHedge.com, another great, different analysis, alternative mains. Don't even bother with the mainstream except to laugh at them and keep up with their nonsense. Bonner and Partners, yeah, Bill, one of my favorite guys. Everything I read, I always chuckle and sometimes just laugh out loud till my ribs hurt. He's a wonderful writer. The debt economy book with the Empire of Debt, just a great book. I've learned so much from that, and Bill's one of my favorites of this. I have some critiques with him in terms of his salesmanship of everything. It's a little bit gross to me, but anyway, okay. But as a writer, great. As a man too, I admire him because he's like me, gets out there and produces things. Actually rides the cattle and the horses like me. I was an architect. I made things and still do that. Okay, next one, dailysheeple.com, thedailysheeple.com. Wake the flock up. A nice little pun there for you. Wake the flock up. Sheep, don't go back to sleep, sheep. The Daily Sheeple, I get a great kick out of that one. The next one, www.freetheworld.com on the virtues of economic freedom. They put out a yearly survey of which are the most economically free countries. Consistently over the last 5+ years, it's been, guess which? Hong Kong first, Singapore second. I think America is down to 14th or even lower now. Terrible. Liberty.me, a new site out with, what's his name? Excuse me. No, I can't think of his name right now, but it's a nice site. It's a social site, excuse me, for anarcho-libertarians. Jeff Tucker? Yeah, I think that's it, Jeff Tucker. And finally, the libertarianism.org, a great source for many things. Finally, to end up, my brain is full. May I be excused? Well, that's me. Freach. Look up and out the spiral of growth. Increase. This is my symbol. You start out, you've got to break the circle, the cycle. Step outside of governments and gods. Get free to think on your own. Then start to spiral little by little, more and more, where you're going up, always further and out further, until you fly off into your death. That's it. That's the way. I never retire. My retirement is when I die. Okay, so there it is. There's my spiral. There's my door that opens up. Mr. Osborne, may I be excused? My brain is full. Check me out. Link with me. That's my name, Jack Carney, Beijing, China. My cell phone, 86159106000531. I'm accessible. I'm open. I'm transparent. What you see through me is what you see. themesofjack@gmail.com. My QQ number, 1684-864-831 for all my Chinese friends. Skype or Skypey, Jack in China 2005. My website, of course, I've got 11 domain names here. This is the major one, www.resourceforyoursource.com. That's resourceforyoursource.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Dropbox. I'm on Google Plus. I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. Okay, what do we got? 1 hour and 37 minutes. A nice number to end in. So I'm sorry that no one else attended besides me, but hopefully this will go out on YouTube and maybe UQ for my Chinese friends, and you can have a little bit of an introduction to two of the most important books that I think you really need to read. And remember, join me in banthebond.com. Ban the bond. Do not buy from central governments. You're just supporting death. You're feeding, you're giving them your blood, and you're causing them to kill other people. Don't support them. Be transparent. Show everyone where you've invested your money and don't invest it in these butchers, these banksters, these wolves. Stay away from them. Banish them from your brain and your heart and your pocketbook. Okay, that is it. And goodbye. That's the end of it. So this meeting is being recorded. I guess I should just push this one, do I? Recording. Let's see. Record. Being recorded. Click here to stop for recording. Okay. I click here. Goodbye, people. Bye-bye. For each resource for your source, contact me. I'm available. Bye-bye.